We not doing that in 2020. We not doing that. So I won't even say any more about that. We not doing that. What's up, YouTube? So this is actually my very first YouTube video, and I don't know what I will exactly want my channel to encompass just yet. But for right now, just told myself to just go ahead and start putting content out there that you care about. I guess I have to go ahead and say the typical, if you like these videos, if you want to see more of my content, go ahead and subscribe and give me a thumbs up. So today I wanted to talk about something that is dear to my heart, and it's mental health. And I wanted to talk about mental health and depression because it's just something that is still unfortunately very taboo. And I think that we all have a different idea of what depression looks like. And so I just want to come on here and just kind of clear up some things and just really educate people on mental health and depression. Depression is dear to my heart because it's something that I suffer from. And that might surprise many as far as if you haven't been following my Instagram page or anything, or if you've kind of like met me out in public and if you met me out in passing, I don't think I look like your typical depressed person, but that is exactly why I wanted to do a video, just so I can bring more awareness, and if it will help anyone else live more authentically in their truth, or just not feel bad for it, that's my goal. And overall, I just want to destigmatize depression because it's real. So what is depression? It's simply a mood disorder. It's a mood disorder that affects the brain because your chemicals are off balance in your brain. So it is a neurological disorder. Now, one thing that I think is not talked about enough, and it's what I specifically suffer from, is seasonal depression. And that can also be called seasonal affective disorder. Seasonal affective disorder is a mood disorder that can occur around the same time every year. I have trauma. I've had a rough childhood, but I knew that I suffered from depression from a young age. I knew that my life wasn't ideal. And there were certain, attempts from depression of like suicidal attempts, suicidal thoughts, things like that. So I was aware of that. But what I didn't understand, I didn't realize, was that there was a condition called seasonal affective disorder. The way that I started to notice that something wasn't right, or I guess I should say I noticed a pattern in my depression, was I was just casually talking to my sister one day, who she's a clinical social worker, so she understands. She's very educated in all of the mental illness disorders and things like that. I was talking to her one day and I was like, you know what? It just seems like every winter or every fall, like that is my lowest point with my depression. It's something that it's a funk that I just cannot get out of, and it's just almost debilitating when it's, either cold outside or there's not a lot of sun outside, like there's this overcast. Those are the worst months for me. And she was like, yeah, that's called seasonal depression. And so I was like, what? Like, what even is that? And so I took it upon myself to look up this information. And I mean, we all should not go on WebMD and self-diagnose, but honestly, it can be helpful because as soon as I looked up the condition, I was like, yeah, this me. And also, it's kind of like a weird thing that I kind of noticed too about myself. And when I looked up, the qualities of this disorder, was that it constantly talked about like overcast affecting your mood. Overcast, like if you go outside, it's overcast. And it just all made sense of why a girl don't like sunglasses, okay? I have never liked a sunglass, okay? Like sunglasses, I know everyone will get so hyped and have like different pairs and different looks. I freaking hated sunglasses all my life. And I just really didn't even know why. Like, I knew that when I put on sunglasses, I did not like how dark the world felt. That's all I really knew. But it made hella sense when I realized, girl, like, you don't like sunglasses because it makes the world dark, which makes, it kind of creates this permanent, well, not permanent, but this temporary overcast, like, in your vision, and you feel like shit. Honestly, like, you feel like shit. So I was like, wow, me not caring for sunglasses like all of my life honestly was kind of like a sign of this seasonal affective disorder. So I wanted to bring attention to that because it is real. I had someone in my life kind of tried to debate whether seasonal depression was real or if you could just get depressed around the same time every year. It's real. And so that's one thing that I want people to know, that you can feel fine throughout the year. But if you start to notice a pattern in your mood around the same time, and usually it is like the fall or winter months. It's absolutely the fall and winter months for me. Like, so right now, a girl struggling. But it's real. So just wanted to highlight that. All right. What can depression look like? And I say the word can, that is the key word here, because my major point in this is that depression can look like anything. That's what the world needs to understand. The world needs to understand that depression can look and disguise itself as any trait, any quality in a person. The reason why I wanted to really bring attention to this, because there is this stereotype that a depressed person is walking around miserable, sad all the time, like it's this obvious as like somber person. That's not the case. I read one time that it was someone tweeting that, they suffer from depression, but that they're not a miserable person. They're just an intense person. And that made so much sense to me. I would not describe myself, as far as like publicly or when I'm around people, as a miserable person. I wouldn't describe myself as a miserable person on Instagram, on social media, at work, around my friends. That's honestly the last word that I would use to describe myself. But I do suffer from depression. What this person had tweeted was that they're not a miserable person, they're an intense person. And what that means is that they're intense in all of their emotions. So they love intensity, like they feel intense emotion, they feel intense pain as well. And so it's these, and it even can be intense happiness. Like it's just this kind of like sliding scale of like intensity of all of these different emotions. So it's not always someone looking sad or miserable. For me, when thinking about what my depression looks like, communication is honestly one of my flaws. Like, I suffer from speaking up for myself. I am the worst texter that you will probably ever meet in your whole entire life, honestly. And it's not just with people who, I'm not necessarily close to. Oh, it's with everybody. Like, trust me, it's with everybody. Like, I'm an equal opportunist when it comes to bad texting, okay? I also suffer from communication in the way that I love to quarantine myself. I don't like reaching out to people. I don't like talking to people half the time. I would definitely describe myself as introverted, extrovert, or vice versa, however that goes. Because when I'm out, I know how to work a crowd. I know how to work a room. I know how to be friendly and make friends. That's not a problem. But it's so exhausting. It is so exhausting. And so for me, I quarantine myself a lot, especially like after work or just in general, honestly. There could be months that I go that I don't talk to, I don't reach out to like my very best friends. And that's because most of them understand. But it's because that I exert so much energy out in my day to day of just like showing up for work, but just showing up for myself, that when I am home, I don't like talking to anybody. I don't like, whether it's texting, whether it's calling, whether it's leaving my house, hanging out. It's extremely exhausting to me. And so that is really one of my traits that that I really suffer from. Another important thing that I want to talk about is how else depression can look. Depression can look like the top performer at work, the socialite, the funny friend, the strong friend. Depression can look like all of that and can manifest itself or be within all of those people. So where we need to do better as a society is to just stop assuming that because you have this extroverted friend or this someone who is just like, seems like they're on top of it in every aspect in life, that honestly they can be suffering too. And one trait that a lot of people don't understand is that sometimes the most highest performing people are actually suffering from the most severe type of depression. So I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention of just like, look, we can't stereotype this anymore. What can depression feel like? Man, oh man. Depression can feel very lonely. Depression can feel debilitating. Depression can feel like confusion. Depression can constantly make you think, what's the point of life? What's the point of anything? What's the point of doing this, doing that? Severe depression with even suicidal ideologies or kind of traits can feel like the world is just better off without you. Whether it's your job, whether it's family, whether it's friends. Depression can make you feel like a burden. It can also feel like your most minor problems are intensified, therefore you would just be better not here on earth. There's been plenty of times in my life where it's just like, it's sad because you know there's a solution to end all of your pain, and that is suicide. Have I attempted? Yeah, I've had several attempts when I was younger. Not too many as far as in my adulthood. Definitely thoughts, but not attempts. And it's because life feels so heavy at times, and you know there's an absolute solution to the heaviness. It's like, if I have a problem and there's a solution to my pain, it only makes sense. Luckily, I never have given in to those feelings. And it's due to thoughts of family and not wanting to leave, important people and stuff. But yeah, that it looks like that as well. It can feel, for instance, in the suicidal like ideologies, and that a lot of times, and what something that I used to feel myself was that you almost want to take this pain inside that you feel so intensely inside and make it kind of like tangible. So it's like physical pain will almost just kind of feel so much better than the emotional pain that you're harboring. So for instance, that's why some people, cut their wrists. It's something that I've done when I was younger and I still have scars from. because it's just like you just want to transfer that pain into something tangible because it feels so intense inside. Depression can make you feel that you're never satisfied. Depression can cause you to be neglectful of yourself, of your responsibilities, of just like keeping up with yourself. Depression can feel like random grief, whether it's something that, whether you're actually grieving, someone or a loss of something, but it just comes in waves. It's very random. So for those suffering from depression, there are some solutions that I feel like everyone should just give their self a fighting chance and to try. One of the biggest solutions that I am a huge advocate for is therapy. But what I want to say about therapy is that when looking for a therapist, I think it's the most important thing to find someone of the same cultural background. Sometimes, just even race. Like for me, I will not go to someone who is not Black just because I feel like there are these like baseline problems that I need my therapist to understand and to have felt in the world. On top of that, everything else that you're feeling inside. I think that's extremely important. That's my opinion. We all have one. Depression can also feel and cause self-sabotage. That is something that I feel like I suffer from most. Oh my goodness. Because I have intense emotional feelings a lot of times, I play so many scenarios out in my head, or I just think I'm not good enough, or I'll never find this, never do that, never do this. And so a lot of times what can happen is when you have all of these negative thoughts, you start to make yourself believe that it's true. And it becomes real fears, whether it's, never finding a lifetime partner or having kids or being happy. And so sometimes when you have those emotions and they feel so intense, you kind of want to like solve the problem before it's even a problem, I think is the best way. So for me, there are certain friendships, certain relationships, certain just interactions or just opportunities even that I just self-sabotage. I mean, it's not intentional. I don't go out here trying to be like this to that person or hurt this person. It's really not. It's not something that I would ever say is intentional. But through different actions, through different behaviors, I do sabotage situations. Another solution, in addition to therapy, is just overall self-care. But we all know that, we all hear that, but I want to stress the importance of individualized self-care. That just means taking yourself, understanding your, what you like, your hobbies, what you need, and to really just individualize your healing based off of you. If you know that you're someone who doesn't like going outside or doesn't like the outdoors, and there's a lot of times people say just get outside, go take a hike. If you know you don't like that, maybe try something else. So I would say journaling is very helpful. I would suggest a diary, but also the guided journals that are available. I got one for my birthday that is the Michelle Obama's Becoming. It's Michelle Obama's. It's basically the journal that goes to the Becoming book by Michelle Obama. That has been very helpful because it asks you certain questions. It asks you to write down your goals, write down your favorite quotes, things like that. So I used to feel like diaries can just feel a little, I don't know, just amateur or whatever, but the self-guided journals or the prompt type journals, those are really helpful, and I adore mine. Like I'm obsessed with mine. Another solution would to be try meditation, guided meditation. You can find so many videos on YouTube, things like that. You should also try to incorporate a routine. A lot of times when you are a depressed person, well, if you are a person suffering from depression, you lack routine in certain areas. And a lot of times your physical environment can be a manifestation of what's going on in here. So I used to have a huge problem with like laundry and just kind of keeping my room tidy. Once I started a routine, slowly but surely, I kind of just told myself that I was going to get better about laundry or dishes or just making my bed in the morning. Now, like, I'm so organized, it's crazy. Like, I feel off when I don't do my routine. And it's just something that slowly has become better for me. It wasn't something that happened overnight, and it just makes me feel better. Another important solution is, of course, to exercise if you can. Exercise when it is a routine is what really feels better. I know it can feel really draining or kind of like make you even feel more miserable just thinking about exercising sometimes. So I promise you, if you start the habit and actually create a habit of exercise, it does feel better. Sleep is so important. I cannot stress that enough. Anyone will be just a walking zombie without sleep. So if you're someone who suffers from depression, please don't underestimate what sleep can do. Whether that's going to bed early, whether that's kind of just taking some natural supplements like melatonin. I've heard that tart cherry juice that you can get from like Kroger, Food Lion, that is kind of like it causes your body to release its own natural like melatonin. I don't know, but my coworker swears by it. So definitely try that. But sleep is so, so, so important. You do not understand. In addition, I would say that going outside does help. Just get to moving. If you are someone who is just kind of like me, quarantining yourself in the house, just try to go outside, take out the trash, do something, take a walk. It probably will make you feel better. Probably, most likely. It kind of always does for me, but it is a hassle kind of getting there. And then lastly, just to challenge your negative thoughts in any case. If you find that you are constantly, just having negative thoughts about yourself, about people, about the world, which, people are annoying. So like, it's kind of hard sometimes, but mostly about yourself. Just really challenge those thoughts and just think of ways that you can switch those negative thoughts about yourself into positive thoughts. It's kind of just like, for job interviews when they ask you what your weakness is. It's cool to analyze it, but also think about how you can turn it into your strengths or how you can kind of rephrase it in your mind to be something that you can grow and learn from. This is what I've been waiting for. What not to do as a friend, as someone who has someone in their life who suffers from mental illness or depression, things like that. Do not all of a sudden come out with your depression detective badge and try to diagnose people or figure out if they're really depressed. I swear to God, do not think that you have the right to tell someone what they're going through, to tell someone that you do not feel like their neurological chemicals are off. Do you understand that you have no right? Like, you're even therapists and even qualified mental health professionals. I mean, yes, that's their job, but there are still aspects of their job or their profession that are very subjective. So I would say unless you are a qualified mental health professional in some way, shape, or form, do not feel like you can just be out here either diagnosing people or telling them that their depression is not real, telling them to get over it, telling them, oh, but I just saw you at a party last week. No, it doesn't matter. You have no right to tell anyone. So if you find yourself being a depression detective, trying to figure out people, trying to diagnose your friends, misdiagnose, whatever the word is, please stop. It's so, so dangerous to assume that everyone or anyone who speaks openly about their depression is attention seeking. That is the most dangerous thought that you can have when it comes to people. If you have not suffered from depression, anxiety, or just any mental illness, you do not understand the bravery, number one, that it takes to even speak up or to be vocal about it, to even just be self-aware of your depression. Because the world is so cruel, because there's such a stigma around it, there's so many factors that cause people not to speak up about depression. So it's so important that you honor and that you support and that you congratulate people's strengths when they are vocal about their depression. Can depression or mental illness be weaponized? It can, but either way, that's not up to you to really figure out whether someone's doing it or not. I would say, just like how, we treat sexual assault victims, just believe them. Just simply believe them. Don't question it, just simply believe them. This kind of goes without saying, don't try to be a therapist. Like, if someone is talking to you and opening up to you about their depression, don't think that you have to say anything that sounds great, that sounds right, because half the time you're going to say something wrong or that is just unhelpful. So don't try to be a therapist when it comes to your friend. Don't try to be a qualified mental health professional when it comes to your friends. Just be there to listen. And something that I'm so thankful for is one of my best friends that I was very honest with. She was probably like one of the first friends I was very honest with about my depression. She got it. She understood me. I would just text her and say, hey, I'm having a bad day. I'm having a dark day. She'd come over. She didn't even have to say anything to me. Half the time, we didn't even talk. Half the time, we just maybe watched TV together, but she just sat with me and she just got it. And I'm so thankful for her to this day, and she still gets it. And because I had someone like her, and I was so privileged and blessed to have someone like her, I really avoided a lot of situations where it could have been darker for me. It could have went worse for me. But because I had someone who's just simply got it and didn't judge me and didn't try to give advice, just simply was there to understand me, she saved my life in so many ways. So Ty, shout out to you. And then of course, like my other best friends, like they're so great with me now, but it was just that Ty was like the first person, to really know that and to be there for me. But then once I eventually opened up, I've had so much support, from my friends, from my best friends and stuff. So, that's so important. I can honestly go on and on about like what not to do with your friends or people that that are suffering from depression, but other than those points, you really just kind of have to just use common sense. And it's not so common, but I could spend all day talking about that. All right. So how can you be an ally or supportive of your friends, family, or anyone that that is suffering from depression? One of my good friends is one of my male friends. He's super good with it. He every now and then will just simply send me a text and it just says, how can I support you? And that is so important when your friends just care enough to just simply ask, in what ways do you need me to show up for you? Because everyone's different. Again, depression looks so different in so many ways that it's not a one size fits all. There's not one solution to this. There's not one way to be supportive of everyone. We're all individuals. And so just being that friend to simply ask and not assume or not try to be a therapist of just like, how can I support you? That is so important. I'm so thankful for him to this day for that. So that's important. So consider sending any of your loved ones, friends, people that that text. So in addition, this kind of goes along with the how can I support you, but maybe just ask them their coping style. and just try to figure out in what ways that you can support their coping style, or you know, which ways that you can just kind of understand their coping style. For instance, one of my coping styles is to just like shut off the world. Like, I don't talk to nobody, I don't text nobody back, I don't call anybody back, I don't reach out to anybody. That's just a coping style. So, for instance, if my friends, you know that about me, they're not going to think that I just randomly died and like fell off the earth. They're going to know that like Asia's probably going through a rough patch right now. This is her coping style. And that I will just be there to check on her every now and then. But when you don't know that about your friends, you can easily be triggered by your friends and their behaviors if you don't know their coping style. For instance, like I have, you know, some friends that are just like me, just shutting myself off from the world, or not reaching out to them first, or, you know, my just terrible communication. It's just not their wave. And one thing I will say is that if you're someone who suffers from depression, you have to just give people the freedom to decide whether they want to be in your life or not. And I hope that really resonates with people. And I hope people really understand that, you know, no one's really obligated to be your friend. You just would hope and pray that you do have friends that understand and that want to be there for you. But one thing that I will never, you know, hold against anyone that was my friend or is my friend, or if we're having like a rough patch, I won't hold that against them, because I know that in a lot of ways I have shitty attributes. And if that's just not their way, that's not their move, I understand. I definitely understand. So, you know, you just have to let people be sometimes, and let people decide whether, you know, you're too big of a project, or, you know, the friendship is just too like up and down for them. For me, it's just like I really thrive with like my low maintenance friends. So that's just something. Another way is the example that I gave of my best friend, just to be there and be present for your friends. So a lot of times that means, you know, coming over and just sitting with them. A lot of times when you're depressed, you don't really want to be bothered, but if you have friends that understand, that don't try to like talk to you or get you to talk about it, or like try to unpack you and stuff, if you just be present with them and you just practice good listening, don't think that you have to give a response. Just be very empathetic. Not necessarily are you trying to give solutions. Don't do that. Don't do that. Another thing kind of goes back to being supportive of your friends. It's just simply checking in. Checking in before you go to tell them about your day or situation or whatever you're going through. Checking with them first to ask them if they have the mental capacity to take on, you know, your drama or whatever you're going through. Always kind of check in with them first, just to make sure, because a lot of people, even if we suffer from depression, we still have empathy. We still have a lot of empathy for people. So then if I have someone that is telling me about what's going on, you know, all wrong in their life, and then my life is all wrong, I'm over here just like harboring both of our feelings and both of our struggles, and it can be a lot. So just check in with them first. That's super important. And lastly, I would say just consider being a low maintenance friend to those people. Just being understanding that this might not be the friend where you can hang out with them during the week or every weekend, or maybe not hear from them all the time. Consider really just being okay with being low maintenance, but, you know, during the times where they, you know, do feel better, just kind of coming back and being on the same page, not missing a beat. I love that about most of my friends, is that I can not talk to them for months or not see them for months, but when I do reach out or we are together, nothing changes. Nothing has changed. It doesn't feel weird. It doesn't feel awkward. Most of them don't make me feel guilty for, you know, being MIA. Just like, it's just great. And so I just know that about myself, that I need people who are low maintenance. To wrap up, you know, this whole video, I want to speak to the people, you know, who do suffer from depression to kind of have some final thoughts and some, important reminders. If you think that you are suffering from depression, or if you have been diagnosed, just to be honest with yourself. I think that awareness and just understanding that, hey, like, maybe you didn't think it was depression at first, but these certain things kind of, add up to be something that is really influencing your mood or affecting your mood. Just to be honest and with yourself and just say, hey, I probably suffer from depression. Another thing, in addition to, I know I talked about some solutions before, but consider, along with therapy, consider, medication. Just consider it. And this is something that you want to talk to your doctor about. For instance, I am on medication. I am on a mild antidepressant. I take Wellbutrin, and I take 150 milliliters a day. So it's just one pill in the morning. And it really just helps me to be more motivated to really function throughout the day. It's not something, it can have, some withdrawal effects in some people, but for me, it doesn't really affect me. And it doesn't affect a lot of people. And that's why they mostly prescribe it to people who suffer from seasonal depression, because it doesn't give you that intense, those intense side effects that a lot of antidepressants give you. Because I suffer from seasonal depression, I do take it during, for instance, I will start my medication probably around August, really getting it in my system, because it does take up to 6 weeks sometimes to really be in your system. That way, by fall or winter, it's in my system. I'm taking it every day. And then, when spring comes around and the sun kind of comes out, I don't take it during the spring and the summer months. So for me, it's a great kind of mild antidepressant that just works for me. I can't really describe how I feel on it. It doesn't make me feel crazy. It doesn't make me feel really any type of way. The best way I can describe how I am on Wellbutrin is just I just have a lack of either sadness or hopelessness or being unmotivated. It's just the absence of. It doesn't really make me feel like anything. I just happen to notice the absence of those kind of depressive behaviors or feelings. One thing that I want to stress to people who suffer from depression is to never feel guilty for your depression. If it's something that we all could control, we would. Honestly, it's not something that you even want to deal with ever. So don't feel guilty for who you are. Don't feel guilty, for being that friend. Just be okay in the fact that you might lose some relationships or some relationships might struggle. But that it's okay, and that it can get better, and that, a lot of times it will get better. You just have to honestly just be honest with yourself about your diagnosis or your feelings, and just allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to heal. Don't feel guilty for the people who can't or are dedicated to not understanding depression. You're not obligated to educate anyone on your mental illness. It's already exhausting in itself, and to feel this obligation to people to explain yourself. We're not doing that in 2020. We're not doing that. So I won't even say any more about that. We're not doing that. You with me or you ain't with me? Oh well. And last but not least, one thing that I stress to people suffering from depression is something that my therapist helped me to understand, is that dealing with mental illness and dealing with depression can feel like life is this huge dust cloud. There's just so many particles and dust, and you just can't see what's in front of you. It's just windy or just dusty, I guess. And your vision, everything's obscured. That it feels chaotic. Life feels chaotic. And if you constantly try to combat or to deny or all of that, that's kind of like flinging your arms in this dust cloud, which only kind of picks the dust up more and just creates a bigger mess. It's so important to, instead of trying to sweep your feelings under the rug, instead of trying to just harbor these feelings, instead of just trying to avoid these feelings, which are representative of like you swinging and flinging your arms in the air, just to allow yourself to feel the emotions. Allow yourself to feel sad if that's what you feel. Allow yourself to feel unmotivated if that's what you, just whatever your feelings are, honor them. Truly honor them. And what that does, it causes you to put your hands down, and eventually, just by sitting there and honoring them and sitting in your feelings, the dust slowly begins to settle. And it slowly begins to settle on the ground. And then all of a sudden, you know, you can kind of see clearly in front of you because everything is on the ground. And once everything is on the ground, you have better control of cleaning up the mess, cleaning up the dirt. But allow yourself to feel, to look at the dirt, to see the dust, and then slowly but surely, you know, get your dustpan, and that's kind of like your solutions or your healing or whatever, and just create a plan for how you'll slowly start to tackle this pile of dust and to clear that up, and then this pile and that pile. But you constantly trying to avoid or trying to solve all of that and just completely neglect your feelings, it just creates a bigger mess. So allow the dust to settle, and then create a plan for how to clean it up. So you all, thank you so much. If you sat through this entire video, shout out to y'all, because I know that you just don't feel like watching videos sometimes. I don't know. I just don't feel like hearing people talk sometimes. That might just be me. But if you can relate to that, if you have learned something, if you have just learned to be more understanding, or if you just honestly felt everything that I said, like, that's why I did this video, just to be authentic, just to be transparent, but to also help people who either are suffering from depression, or to help allies and friends and family of those suffering depression, just to better manage it. Because if we don't talk about it, it's still going to be a stigma, and we're still going to have people that deny their feelings, that kind of succumb to their depressive feelings, whether it's through suicide or anything. And that's the last thing that I want. So I'm willing to be open, honest, transparent, and, you know, just here for anyone who understands. And so again, if you have watched this video, thank you so much. I hope you did learn something. I hope it gave you a better understanding of me as a person. I guess give this a thumbs up if you like. Is that what they say? I don't know. I'll figure it out. But until next time, go to therapy. Bye.